Well, it's officially Friday night, which means it's officially Madden 21 ratings time. All of the official ratings are now uploaded and we can look at them and we can get mad. That's what it's time to do. It's time to get mad and talk about everybody that was disrespected, that wasn't rated too high, or some people that were rated a little too high. That's what time it is, so we're going to get into it in just a minute. Now, keep in mind, I will do a player reaction video sometime this week, and I'll round up all the reactions because you know the players are going in on EA Sports as always. But I'm going to give it a little time because there'll probably be some more video reactions that come out, and I want to get them all together in one video. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss it. We're at 280. You guys have been killing it. Let's get to 300 before Madden 21. I trust you guys. I know you can do it because you guys are inspirational. I know you can do it. Now, you might have saw earlier today that Michael Thomas was announced as the 5th and final member of the 99 Club. My guy, Michael Thomas of my Saints, and Julio fans everywhere are fed up because he's never been a 99 in Madden, which is kind of crazy if we're being honest. He should have been a 99 at one point or another, but he's never been higher than a 98, which is a little weird. But you know what? My guy Can't Guard Mike is holding the top spot right now, and I love it. Now, with that said, let's get into the actual ratings. Okay, so here are the top guys. We'll just scroll through real quick. We already know the 99 guys. You can see Bobby Wagner at the 98, Hopkins 98, Kittle 98, J.J. Watt, Zach Martin also 98. You could see Julio Jones, Khalil Mack, Russell Wilson, Travis Kelce, Von Miller all at 97. Then you got your 96 guys right here. Cam Jordan, Bakhtiari, Fletcher Cox, Mitchell Schwartz, Tyreek Hill. So now let's just go position by position because that's really the easiest way to kind of just showcase who's ranked where. So here we have the QBs. We already know the top 10 guys because we saw it earlier this week. A lot of people feel like Brady's a little too high, Rodgers too low, Sean Watson too low. It's all to preference. Like I said, I don't really care that much about overall myself. But then you see we got Jimmy G, Matt Stafford at the 83, Kirk Cousins, Phillip Rivers 82. A lot of people are going to say Stafford and Cousins are probably too low. Maybe the same for Big Ben. Tannehill had a really good year. Seems like he's a little low as well. Then you got Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Cam Newton, super low. I don't know if I would have made him that low. I know he's been hurt the last 2 years, so kind of hard to know where he's going to stand this year, but it just feels like that's too low for Cam. Kyler Murray, a lot of people weren't happy about this, 77 overall. I mean, you got Jared Goff, the same rating as my guy, Joe Burrow, who hasn't even played it down yet. Just feels like Jared Goff didn't have the best year, but he should probably be a little higher. Teddy Bridgewater looked good in his 5 games last year, but he's still not good enough to get in the 80s, apparently. And here are your lower rated guys right here. So, you know, let out the frustrations in the comments. Gardner Minshew at a 70 seems kind of wild because he played pretty decent last year. We'll see if he can get that up this year, but damn, that's pretty low. Here are your running backs. We already know the top 10 guys. You know, we saw that earlier this week. A lot of people feel like Barkley's too low, Kamara's too low. So you got Kareem Hunt, Le'Veon Bell at 87. You got Chris Carson, Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley all at 86. Austin Eckler, Marlon Mack, Phillip Lindsay at 85. Melvin Gordon, I mean, this was top 5 guy last year coming into 20. And now he's down here at 84 with Raheem Mostert. 84 ain't bad, but it's just not what you typically associate with a Melvin Gordon. You got Leonard Fournette, 83, Tevin Coleman, Devin Singletary. Scrolling down, Kenyon Drake had a pretty decent year. He's at 82. Kerryon Johnson at 82. Darius Geis hasn't been healthy, but I expect big things out of him. You can see James Conner, Carlos Hyde, Latavius Murray, Miles Sanders. A lot of people feel like he's too low. Now, Josh Jacobs got an 88. Miles Sanders also had a really good rookie year, and he's way down here. So, I don't know. You can definitely make some gripes about that one, Eagles fans. I definitely agree. Wide receivers, my boy Michael Thomas, we already know, 99 overall. Now, here are the top 5 guys. Davonte Adams coming in at top 5, kind of surprising. I love Davonte Adams. I think he's great. He's done a lot for my fantasy team over the past couple of years, too, I might say. But surprised that Mike Evans isn't above these guys. I feel like, I think I asked one of the ratings guys why, because I was just curious, and he said that Davonte Adams' route running is a little bit better, and that's kind of what's giving him the +2. And I would agree, man. Davonte Adams is definitely one of our better route runners in the league, but I just feel like Mike Evans has been so consistent, 1,000 yards every year of his career. I feel like I would have gave Mike Evans that top 5 nod personally. And then you see rounding out the top 10, you got Diggs and Keenan Allen. You got Odell Beckham falling down a little bit from where he typically is at. You got Thielen, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp, AJ Green, Chris Godwin had an amazing year. I think he'll be in the 90s very soon. Tyler Lockett, Emmanuel Sanders, Julian Edelman, T.Y. Hilton, Juju Smith-Schuster. Go to the second page. Kenny Golladay is another guy I feel like is always underrated. He just looks like a stud to me. DJ Moore had an incredible year, so 85 feels like it could be a tad bit too low for him as well. Same for Jeffrey and Sutton. I feel like 84 is a little low for those guys. Those guys have been balling. And here's the rest of you guys kind of rounding out the bottom of the 80s here. Terry McLaurin, second-year guy. I think this guy is going to be really good in his second year. Tight ends. We saw some of these earlier today. The tight end rankings are a little wild, I have to say. Now, I agree Kittle being the best. I feel like Kittle and Kelsey are 1A and 1B. I truly do. I would have personally put Kittle at the 99. I think he's just a little bit better than Kelsey, but it's really close. I don't care which one you think's better. I just personally like Kittle a little bit more. Gronkowski at 95 is wild because he took a year off, and even in his last year in the league, he didn't look like the same guy. Now, the ratings guys on Twitter was saying the reason he's so high is because his blocking is so good, and apparently the blocking is a big factor for the tight end overall. And Gronk's one of the best blocking tight ends of all time, but they said if you look at his speed, which 81. If you look at his route running and his catching type stuff, his catching's a 94. He still can catch the ball, but his route running, his speed, his agility's a 82. You see, he's not going to perform nearly as good as a receiver as this 95 would lead you to believe, but it's because obviously he's a veteran, he's got high awareness, and his run blocking is so high that is why his overall is still so high for a tight end. That's what they said. But I feel like, man, Zach Ertz at a 90 feels a little disrespectful. Probably wasn't his best last year compared to the previous couple years, but still, I feel like he's a guy you got to have in the top 3. It just feels like he's a little too low. Feels like the Eagles kind of getting done dirty in a few spots here already. Just looking through this, Austin Hooper was great last year. Still feel like he might be a little too high, though. I would have had Mark Andrews up here in the top 5. Mark Andrews is a freaking baller. I mean, he's just been balling out. Evan Ingram, I think, Jared Cook, these guys are fairly rated. Darren Waller, I probably would have a little higher too because he was another guy last year just going crazy. But here's your lower rated tight ends. Again, let out your frustrations in the comments. Let me know what you disagree with. So now we're going to look at the tackles, do left tackles and right tackles together. You see we got Bakhtiari, Teron Armstead, always the 1A, 1B left tackles. They're just, kind of like Kittle and Kelsey for the tight ends. It's like, pick which guy you want. They're both good. Right tackle, you got a few guys, Mitchell Schwartz. A couple guys. You got Mitchell Schwartz and Ryan Ramczyk. I feel like Ramczyk's a little low. I feel like he's just as good as Armstead, Mitchell Schwartz, David Bakhtiari. Like, all those guys are just as good. Just seem like he's a little bit lower rated. But you got Ronnie Stanley, Trent Williams, Tyron Smith, Lane Johnson. The Eagles have so many. That's the one place Eagles don't really get too disrespected. Their O-line is rated really well. Lane Johnson, you could say, should probably be in the 90s too, though. But overall, their O-line's crazy. And here are your more mid-tier tackles in the game right there. Now we're going to look at the guards. Of course, Zach Martin, always and forever. He's always going to be the highest guard in the game. Just no one's really on his level. Big Quentin Nelson, couple years in the league, just been a stud. He's going to just kind of remain as a top left guard probably for a while. Brandon Brooks, again, Eagles, they got just studs all over the O-line. David DeCastro, veteran, always holding it down. Richie Incognito. And then, here we got your mid-tier guys that you're used to seeing. Joel Bitonio, Joe Thuney, Shaq Mason, Kevin Zeitler. You got Jason Peters, who's getting older, so his overall is going down. They kicked him into guard now, so we'll see how he performs there. But still, even in the low 80s is really solid for offensive linemen in Madden because you don't see too many 90s across O-lines when it comes to the Madden ratings. Now we're going to look at centers, and again, the Eagles, just studs all over their O-line. Jason Kelsey, always a top center. I don't think it's really much debate. Rodney Hudson and Alec Max, they're not too far off. They're really, really good, but Jason Kelsey he's just a little bit of a different breed. Then you got Brandon Linder, Marquise Pouncey. You could see the centers usually don't have as high of ratings. Seems like the guards and tackles get more of the 90s. You don't really see too many high ratings for centers. You see a lot of them kind of come in at the low 80s. I will say, maybe some team bias, but Eric McCoy was so good as a rookie. Feels like 78's disrespectful. Like, at least put my guy 80. Like, my guy should be right here. 78's a little disrespectful. We're going to look at the defensive ends. Keep in mind, kind of the same for the outside linebackers. Like, some of these DNs play in a 4-3, some play in a 3-4, so they're different. Like, Cameron Hayward is not the same type of defensive end as like a Cameron Jordan, right? But that's EA just has not ever updated the terminology in the game. Obviously, we know Aaron Donald forever and always 99. He's just a beast. You got J.J. Watt. Cameron Jordan, Calais Campbell, Myles Garrett. We saw these guys earlier this week when the pass rushers were released. Then you got Joey Bosa. So Joey Bosa wasn't a top 10 pass rusher, but still pretty damn elite, coming in at 91. Brother Nick Bosa after the great rookie year at 89. I think you should just put this guy in the 90s already, because that's just how good he was. Danielle Hunter, I feel like he should be put him in the 90s too. Like, I know, like again, overall doesn't mean anything, but it just looks nice, right? It just looks nice. Danielle Hunter is a 90 overall. That's just what I think, right? But it really doesn't matter. But yeah, anyway, Melvin Ingram, Brandon Graham, Stephon Tuitt, Eric Armstead, and Ndamukong Suh, Trey Flowers, D Ford, Justin Houston, Jarrell Casey. We're going to go second page on this guy because there's a lot of defensive ends. You got Frank Clark making play in the Super Bowl there. You got Yannick Ngakoue, Michael Brockers, Carlos Dunlap, Jerry Hughes kind of low as well. Dante Fowler now with the Falcons. Josh Allen should probably be higher. Like, if Nick Bosa's at 89, I feel like Josh Allen should be like an 84 at least. Because he had a pretty damn good rookie year himself. Not as good as Nick Bosa, but 10.5 sacks, he was pretty good. Chase Young, 80 overall, highest rookie. Brian Burns seems a little bit too low. He had a really, I don't know about really good, but pretty damn good year last year. So that's your defensive ends. Now we got defensive tackles. We know the top two guys, Fletcher Cox, Chris Jones. Then you got Michael Pierce, Grady Jarrett, Kenny Clark kind of rounding out the bottom of the 90s there. Then you got Geno Atkins. Forrest Buckner feels a little low. He was a stud, got traded from the Niners, but man, he was a really big force on that D-line along with guys like Nick Bosa. You got K'Wan Short, Vita Vea. I'm actually kind of surprised Vita Vea is this high. I feel like he's a guy they usually keep a lot lower, it just seems like. So kind of surprised to see him at that 87. You got your veterans, Gerald McCoy, Linval Joseph, DJ Reader, Eddie Goldman, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Sheldon Rankins, Danny Shelton. Those are your defensive tackles. Now we're going to look at the outside linebackers. Again, some of these guys are stand-up linebackers. Some of them are pass rushers. EA just has not updated the terminology in their game. I don't know why. But we know the pass rushers like Chandler Jones, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, top pass rushers. Demario Davis, my guy, he still can't break into those 90s. Like, man, he's been a stud for the past 2 years. I know I'm sounding like a homer right now. Obviously, he's a stand-up linebacker. He's not a pass rush type guy. He has been a stud. Let my guy get into the 90s. Zadarius Smith, I saw a lot of people asking where he was. Looks like he's got a pretty good rating at 88, but people were surprised to not see him in the top 10 pass rushers after the season he had. But I think 88 is still pretty fair. You got Van Noy, TJ Watt. This is one of the ones people have complained about the most. He's a young player. I know with young players, a lot of times they try not to overrate them too quick unless they're just flat out crazy, like a Nick Bosa type or Saquon Barkley. But I do feel like TJ Watt's a little bit too low for the year he had. I think if he was up here in that like 88, 89 range, I think people would take it a little bit better. That's just me. Same with Shaquille Barrett, led the league in sacks, I believe, and he's, mid 80s. But I did see their reasoning on this. They said that, his other like 4 years in the league, he didn't really do too much, right? He was not really living up to the hype, and then last year he exploded. So in that case, I get it. If you've been not the greatest for the first few years and all of a sudden you break out, they're probably not going to overrate you too quick. They want to see if you can produce that again. So let's say Barrett, through the first 6 to 8 games this year, is playing exactly like he was last year. He'll easily go into the 90s, without a doubt. I believe in the beta, he still did have like an edge threat pass rush ability. So honestly, even at 85, he's going to play like a guy in the 90s. That's how the game works now. Anyway, you got Preston Smith, Jamie Collins, Leighton Vander Esch, Matthew Judon, Harold Landry, Quan Alexander, my LSU guy. You got Miles Jack down here, Whitney Merciless, Robert Quinn kind of had a nice bounce back here. So those are your outside linebackers. Here are your middle linebackers. Bobby Wagner, usually the top guy. He came in 99 last year. Now he's down on 98. You got Levante David. Eric Kendricks probably could be a little bit higher. Same with Fred Warner. You got Deion Jones, CJ Mosley, Avery and Williamson, couple of Jets guys. Roquan Smith, Benardrick McKinney. Jalen Smith feels a little low at 81. I feel like he's such a problem. At least when the Saints play him, I feel like, man, Jalen Smith's always just bouncing around everywhere, and he's a problem. So, I don't know. Just feel like he's a little bit low. You got Devon White, 92 speed, probably the fastest middle linebacker. Believe Isaiah Simmons, one of the outside linebackers, is at 78 overall, and he's 93 speed. So, he'll be the fastest linebacker in the game. But here are your middle linebackers. Now let's talk cornerbacks. This one always gets it stirred up. People always hate the cornerback rankings. Now we know the top 10 because we saw them yesterday. It stops at Patrick Peterson. Then you got Chris Harris and Desmond King for the Chargers. Then you got to think, look, Chris Harris, Desmond King, 87. Casey Hayward, 89. Derwin James, I believe, is at 89. Like, they just have a complete secondary full of nothing but playmakers. It's absolutely insane. Denzel Ward, Marshawn Lattimore, a couple Ohio State guys. Feel like Lattimore is a little low. I don't think he's top 10 like a lot of Saints fans think, but I do think he's pretty good. I think he should be up like in the 88 range, but I also think guys like Slay and Patrick Peterson should probably be like in the 90 range too. So that's just my opinion. You got McCourty, Kyle Fuller, Marcus Peters, AJ Bouye, Justin Coleman, Shaquille Griffin coming in the mid 80s. And then you got Adoree Jackson, Desmond Trufant, Jimmy Smith, Joe Hayden. I know a lot of people think he's a little bit too low. You got Awuzie, Dante Jackson, Marcus Joyner, Nikel Roby-Coleman, a guy that I will forever hate because of that hit in the playoffs. Xavier Howard, a guy that I know a lot of people are going to think are too low. I feel like Xavier Howard's a little inconsistent, though. That's just me. William Jackson, I always feel like he's underrated in Madden for some reason. Don't know why. But those are your cornerbacks. Here we have the safeties. So we got the top guys we saw, like Harrison Smith, Tyrann Mathieu, Devin McCourty, Jamal Adams. Feel like he should be a tad bit higher. Derwin James, feel like he should be higher. I really feel like Derwin James is probably the most talented safety in the league. He was hurt last year, though, that kind of affected him a little bit. Eddie Jackson, Earl Thomas, I feel like those guys are low. I said it in yesterday's video. Minkah Fitzpatrick, 87, right there with Kareem Jackson. I know a lot of people think he should be top 5. I don't really think Minkah's a top 5. I think top 10 is definitely in the discussion with some of these guys up here. So I would say, yeah, I would like to see him a little bit higher than that 87, but I don't think he's as far off as some people are making it out to be. That's just my opinion, and he's still young, so I think he'll get into the 90s this year for sure. You got Amos, Buda Baker, Jordan Poyer, Malcolm Jenkins, Marcus Williams, Justin Reed, I feel like is always kind of underrated. Now, this is my thing. I talked about it yesterday. You got to go to the second page to see Anthony Harris. Anthony Harris was a stud last year. You could argue, now, let me make this clear. I think Harrison Smith is probably the best overall safety in the league right now, probably along with Derwin James. That's my opinion. But you can argue Anthony Harris, just last year alone, played like the best safety in the league. He was so good last year. I just don't understand why he's so low. Like, I feel like he should at least be up there in the high 80s. He just feels really, really criminally underrated. And here's some of your other guys: Landon Collins, Malik Hooker, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had a pretty solid rookie year. I'm excited to see what he does this year. Jabril Peppers, Jesse Bates, Trey Boston, Von Bell. Those are your safeties. And last but not least, the people that aren't actually real people. Kickers and punters and fullbacks. None of those people are real people. But they never rank kickers in the 90s no more. You just don't see it. I guess however their formula works now, they just... high 80s is the most you'll ever see. And Justin Tucker is usually your top guy. Johnny Heckler is usually your top punter. A lot of familiar names at the top. But yeah, I mean, there's always some guys that are underrated. I always feel like Will Lutz, top 5 kicker. He's always rated in the 70s for some reason. His kick power and accuracy is good in the game. That's the thing. It's weird. Because, again, overall it doesn't matter. Because a lot of these guys, even if they're low, they still have a high kick power and a high enough accuracy to where they're good kickers. But it's just like some of these low ratings just don't really tell the story of how good some of these guys are at their position. But anyway, here are kickers and punters. Like I said, they're not really people anyway. We got Tress Way. I mean, a lot of people know Tress Way, player of the year in Madden, quarterback for the Madden Bowl champion. It's kind of like a meme at this point. But yeah, that's the rating. So vent below in the comments. Let your frustrations out. Let me know how you feel. Be back tomorrow. We're going to have some more content for you guys. I will see you guys next time.